Good morning, Tesla fam. Aaron Rath here with Rat's Tesla, and today we're going to install a new set of lights from our friends at Add-On Design. And I'll get to the unboxing. Here in just a minute. But first I want to talk about, if you've watched my channel in the past, you know that I already have some lights in my car. So before we get to the unboxing and the installation, I want to tell you why I'm switching from the kit that I have, which I got on Amazon. Wasn't that expensive. I want to say I paid like $40 for it, to this kit from Add-On Design, which you can also get from Amazon. And I'll have a link in the description down below. And this one's $79.99. This one is a lot cleaner looking, and it stays on all the time. You can set it up so it's on all the time. The problem with the kit that I have now is it's set to the ambient lights. So only when the headlights are on is this kit on, which for most people that might be okay. But for me, my windows are tinted pretty dark. My windshield is tinted. So I also want to have those lights on during the day. I just think it looks nice. It has such a nice look when you're driving your car. I want them on all the time. And the kit that I have now does not come with Footwell lights. And I'm going to flip the camera around and talk about this for just a second, what my kit has now versus what the new kit's going to have, so you can see it at the end. So as you can see, as we look in the kit now, my lighting goes across this part of the dash, which means I have to pry this part of the dash up and push this lighting in. The new kit is going to go up underneath here, and it's just a lot cleaner look. I'm not a big fan of having to stick in my new dash here and get that. Now you'll also notice that I have red here, and if we look under the footwells, you'll see red under there. But when we go to the back, you'll see that I have blue under the footwells. That's because I have just a regular footwell light that I purchased with a different lighting kit in here, but it can only be blue, and it can't be controlled by the app like this one. So this kit that I currently have has this light strip across the front dash, the light kit in the center console, and the light in the footwell. I'm going to remove that kit, and I'm going to put in a new kit from our friends at Add-On Design. Let's go ahead and unbox and talk about this new kit from Add-On Design and what the differences are between this kit and the kit that I bought. First off, very, very nice looking box. See if I can zoom out. There we go. Nice looking box. Very well put together here. Hard to open with one hand. And then it comes with this card on the inside, and it just says thanks for your purchase. I'm not going to show you the back side because it has QR codes on it that they've asked me not to show because they're just for people that purchase them. And it basically is an installation manual and a link to a YouTube video. But here's what's in the box. You can see there's a ton of stuff in the box. We get double-sided sticky tape that's made for this. We're going to use this double-sided sticky tape when we put the piece on the dash and when we put the piece on the back seats. Throw that to the side. Then, as we dig through here, we've got 4 different pry tools that we're going to use throughout the installation of this kit. We've got 2 that look like this. This will be used on the center console. And then just our regular set of pry tools, which are very nice. Then as we pull this lump of wiring out of here, and that's what it is, it's a lump of wiring, we've got a couple options here. So this kit comes with, and I'm trying to pull everything out of here, this kit comes with 2 different ways to power it. Either the 12 volt, which I'm going to use, or plug into a USB port. This one would work, but I don't want to use it. I have a splitter underneath my center console for 12 volt, And so this works good because then you can turn it on and off if you want to. Like if you have your doors open for a long time and you want it off, you can turn it off. So this is the power source that we're going to use today. If you want to use this one, the installation is the same. It's just down to how you get the power. Then as we pull this kit open, you're going to see one that there's the module. And the module has a QR code on the front to download the app. We'll get that in a bit. And then it splices off, and there are so many, and we're going to get to all this as we go through the installation. And I just want you to know, when you order this kit, there are two different types of installation that you can do. You can do what they call the easy installation, and the easy installation is about a 2 to 3 hour installation, or you can do the more difficult installation, and that installation will hide the wires better. It's just a little bit cleaner look, and that's the installation that we're going to go for. So as we lay this out, you can see that I have 4 footwell lights, 2 for the front, 2 for the rear, so that the footwell can be controlled and the colors can match what the rest of it has. Then we have 6 of these tube lights connectors that we're going to get to how to set them up. But basically we have, and I'm not sure that they lay out in this order, but this is how they are. So we have 2 for the rear seats. So the rear seats are going to have lights that go around them. So 2 for the rear seats, 2 for the, 1 for the center console, 2 for the front dashboard, and then I'm not sure what the 6th one is. We'll get to it in the instructions. That's why we have the instructions, and that what makes this so good. I have gone through this kit and watched the installation video a couple times. I've read the manual, so we are ready to go. And then also in the box, they give you some black tape, because you're going to want to tape these connectors onto the wires so they don't slide loose, and it's great for hiding if you have any little bit of light peeking through. Speaking of light peeking through, they give you this nice shrink tubing so that you can put it over it and hide where we go through out of the dash. So we'll show you that when we get to the dash. Then you've got all the tubing, and there is a lot of it in here. There is a lot of it in here. So now you can choose. So this one with the black on the back, this is for the dash. It has both ends on here. So this is for the dash. So we'll set that aside. There's a second one. But then when you get to the back and you start doing the seats, the seat backs, they give you a choice. You can either do the clear, which they recommend for white seats, or you can do the black, which they recommend for black seats. The clear is going to be brighter. The black is not as bright, but it's easier to hide. So we'll get to that. More than likely, I'm going to use the clear just because I want to be able to have the brighter lights. And in the app, you can go through and dim it and set the colors and all that stuff. And when we get to that, we'll show it to you. We're going to test that here in just a little bit. That's one of the first steps. So without further ado, let's get to the installation of this. Like I said, this should take us about 4 hours to get this done, just because there's a lot of tube that has to be run, a lot of wiring that has to be run. So we're going to take a quick break before we get to the installation. I'm going to remove the old kit that I have in the car. Don't need to show you that. That's not part of this installation. But we're going to remove that old kit, and then we will get to the installation of this kit. Okay. The one thing I forgot to point out is part of step 1, finishing it out, is that in each of these, there's a little plastic screw. We're going to take all of those out and set them aside. So let's do that real quick and put you on fast forward while I do that, because this is pretty boring stuff. Make sure though that you do get all 6 of them. Not that imperative, but you just don't want to lose these. So you kind of want to take them out now so that you don't break them or lose them. All right, so we're going to set them aside in a safe place back here in the box that I have open. And then we're going to go to step 2 in our instructions. And step 2 calls for removing all the panels that we need to get removed. So let's get to it. We're going to grab our pry tools here and get to the panel removal. First panel removal that we'll have to do is these little side triangles. These are super easy. We've removed these 100 times. Just pry it off. They've got 3 clips that clip into place, and just kind of set that aside. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, and we're going to remove some big panels. So before we move to the other side, we're also going to remove this big panel that's underneath here. So this panel on each side. So all you're going to do, well, let's go ahead and take our 3D floor mats out of the way so that we can get up underneath there. You're just going to take a pry tool and kind of put it up underneath here and then pull it out. And it works better with this one if you use this one, because you can get that up underneath there and pull it out. So once you get it underneath there, you just kind of pull it, and you're going to pull on the bottom, and that'll release these clips, and it'll sound like you're breaking it. Don't worry, you are not breaking anything unless you do something like that. But you're just kind of popping these clips out that are along this panel. And if they're being stubborn, you can use the pry tool to kind of work your way back in there. And we need to do this on both sides. And you just got to kind of work your hand around and push on each one. And once you get that done, that panel will just pop out. And then you can see that there are all these white clips that clip this panel in. So let's go take the one off the other side as well. Okay, so first thing we have to do, I have the seat way forward because of the old light sets that I was removing. So we'll put the seat back so we can get to these panels. So we'll go ahead and pop this one. Like I said, just take this edge, kind of slide underneath and pop it out and just set it aside. Now again, take out our 3D floor mat here. Oop, hit the tripod on the way by, and then we're going to pop out this big panel on this side. We're doing this because you have to pass through the wires from one side to the other. This is the more advanced method, the longer method, and so this one takes a little bit more panel removal. So when we get down here, there's a couple that just don't like to come out along this bottom. So we just grab it and pull it, and I can see it with my eyes. I just can't get it to come out. There we go. Now once you have both those panels removed, you'll notice underneath there that there's a pass-through spot. That's where we're going to put these wires through. We're going to put the little connector underneath there. But those are the 4 panels we have to remove in the front of the car. One other panel that we have to remove on each side is this little straight panel that's right here on the edge. So this panel right here, super easy. So you're just going to kind of pry up underneath it and then pop out the top, and then the bottom slides out. So the top has a pop and the bottom has a little slide right out. So we're going to take that out on both sides. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is the front light. So the front light's pretty easy to see. The front light has these white sliders on it, and it also has ends that look like this. Well, one end. So this is for tucking out of the side. So what we're going to do is we are going to put double-sided tape on this. But before we do that, we have to take this heat shrink tubing and cut it in half. And we're going to take each half of that and just slide it on to the lighting here. And that's to hide that lighting. Make sure that the white tube is on the outside of it, because that little white tube is what is used to make sure that the connector into the light stays connected. It's just kind of a little bit of a protector, but also just a security thing. You can take this heat shrink tubing, if you can, and just kind of slide it up over the end to make sure it is on there good. If you can't do that, we've got another way to handle that. But what we're going to do is we are going to stick double-sided tape on this, and we have to clean the front dashboard surface. So I'm going to get a alcohol wipe and wipe underneath the front dashboard, and then we're going to go stick this on there. But before we do that, we want to put the heat shrink, or not the heat shrink, the double-sided sticky tape on there. So pull that out, and this is enough. This will do both the dashboard and the around the seats when you get there. So let's take a look at this. It says tape it on the black area for the best results. So when you look at the light, and you can't see it, but you'll see it when you get yours, there is a clear part on this side over here, and then there's a black part on this side over here. We want to make sure that the sticky side sticks on the black area. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick, and then we will go from there and start getting this put on the dash. All right, if you're an old guy like me, you need glasses. The other thing I've learned is if you take this and you kind of get something heavier, and that's not heavy enough, I'm going to have to get something heavy, because you want to kind of lay it flat. It'll make it a lot easier if one end stays. Got this big bin of screws here. We're just going to kind of set this down, and that'll help us kind of lock this end into place. And then we'll kind of just stick this on as we go. So the first step in putting this on the dash is to take this end with the heat shrink tubing, and we are going to slide it over the heat shrink tubing and put it through right here. So coming to this back side, you'll see there's a little area where it can slide on down, and we kind of want to just slide that up, because what we're going to do is now we're going to stick this underneath this dashboard piece, and we kind of got to be in here to give it a clean look. You also want to make sure that you have the right end so that the double-sided sticky tape can go up underneath here, and the clear side will show out the side. So I had to reverse mine because I didn't have it the right way. Now we're just going to kind of stick this here. So the first thing to do is just kind of get your double-sided sticky tape, the peeling, started. Now remember, I had a break in mine, so mine's going to kind of suck there in the middle, but I'll deal with that when I get to it. And this is just a slow, tedious process of working this across the dash. All right, so like I said, now we're just going to go through, we're going to slide this underneath here, and we're just going to go through the tedious task of pulling this tape and neatly pressing it underneath the dash. You just want to do a little bit at a time, because you want to be able to control where this is going, because the nicer and neater that you put it in here, the better your lighting will look at the end. Now, there are a few obstacles, obviously. You know, you got your steering wheel in the way. I also have my hand show screen here in the way that I just installed, but you can catch that video. That was my last video I put up. You can catch that one. So I'm kind of tucking mine back in there nice so you can barely see it. All right, so I got the light strip in. Took a little bit of finagling. But you see we're tucked out here with the black extra there, and then all the way down. I got one little spot right there at the end where it's letting loose, but I've got an idea on how to make that stick. So now it's time to move on to step 3, I think. Okay, so the next step is step 4. I was wrong. It's not step 3. I lost track. And you need the clear tubes. There are 3 of them. And don't worry, they are all the same length. So no matter which one you grab, you're okay. So we're going to grab one of these, and here's the order of the steps that we're going to go in. The first thing we have to do is we have to remove, in the rear seat, we have to remove the vent cover and the bottom cover that's covering the OBD port. So we'll get those 2 removed. Mine's a little bit different. I have the aftermarket screen there. So instead of the vent cover, I have the aftermarket screen. And then we're just going to work our way around and tuck this in the center console using these 2 pry tools. We're just going to kind of wedge this down in around the edging. So let's get to it. Let's move to the front of the car and we'll get that going. I'm going to remove the screen and the port cover at the bottom off camera because it's a little bit different than pulling yours off. But basically all you're going to do is just get your fingers in there, a little pry tool, and pop it off. And then the same on the bottom so you have the whole bottom side open. I'll show you what that looks like when I get it all done. And then we'll move into the front seat and we'll start getting this work done. So in the back seat, it'll look like this. You'll have this vent cover removed. You won't have this screen hanging down unless you bought one and you have that in. And then underneath here, you'll have the OBD2 port. So basically this allows wires to pass through here. You can see right here in this gap, you'll be able to pass a wire down through here and it'll come out the bottom there. So we want that because when we get to moving wires to the back, that needs to be out of the way. Okay, so in the front here, now we're going to take this clear tubing and we want to start it right back here on the edge, and it's pretty easy to get started. You're just going to push it down in. Mine's a little loose because I had my other set of lights in here, so mine's a little bit loose. Yours won't be this loosey-goosey and fall out as easy, but you basically want to end one wire right back here at the back, and then you're just going to slowly work your way around. Now when you get to the corners, that's the hard part. That's where you need 2 of these pry tools. See if I can do this with one hand as I hold the camera. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to pry one in there so it's in there, and then you're going to pry the second one in by the first one and try and keep them both in there. It's not as easy to do as it looks with one hand, but you basically want to create a nice big gap in there for this to go around the corner. So you're just going to work your way around the corner and then kind of pull these across and work your way in. There is a good opportunity to be able to fix these later But for now, you want to get them in there as good as you can. And like I said, the corners are the hardest part. The straight parts are actually pretty easy. The corners, you have to do the double pry tool so that you can get enough gap in there to be able to push this into the corner. Once you get it pushed into the corner and just kind of get it worked down, again, you can pull those out and just going to work your way back along this edge here, and you're going to have leftover, and that's okay because that's what you want. So we're just going to scooch this all the way to the back, pull our cord out of the way there. And we've got this cord coming over the top. That's for my mag back charger. We just want to push this in all the way to the back. Now just go around and make sure that everything's nice and tight. When you're done, you should be able to, it should be a nice tight fit and not a lot of play in there for you. And you can barely see it in the corners as you just keep working your way down. Just keep pushing it down. And like I said, you're going to have extra on this back side here. And we'll go to the driver's side and kind of show you what that looks like. But on the passenger side, it looks nice and neat and clean here. And just want to make sure this all stays locked in place. Let's go check out the driver's side. Okay, so now back over on the driver's side. Mine's a little loose here, but that's only because I popped it off. Now we'll get that fixed. Get this tube fixed on here. This light tube, there we go. So now what we're going to do is we kind of want to make a mark right back here where this ends. So just get a Sharpie out and just make a little mark there. And we're going to do that for a reason here. We need to take and get a scissors, and we're going to cut right from this line back. We're not going to cut the light. We're just going to cut this edging piece off all the way back so that we can tuck it through and down. I can't do that with one hand, so I'm going to do that off camera, but I'll show you what it looks like when I'm all done. Okay, so we did cut that off, and you want to end it about right here, because then you're just going to tuck it back behind this part here and run it down. See if I can show you. Run it down behind this metal piece, and that'll eventually go down through there and tie into where we're going to wire that off. But for now, it can just hang here. We're just kind of going through and getting everything in place. So next up is going to be step number 5, and that'll be putting the light tubes on the back of the seats. So let's go to the back and let's get set up for that. Okay, so now it is time for the rear seats. So you have 2 of these, and what we're going to do is we are going to take the tape, the double-sided tape, and we're going to put it on this edge. And then we're going to go to the back seat, and we're going to work around the back seat. We're going to cut off at the end for the light tubes to stick on. Again, we're not going to cut the light piece. We're just going to cut the extra stubby piece that we're going to stick in the back and get that going. So this is kind of a tight spot to put this in or do this. So I'm going to have to do this off camera. But what you're going to do is you're going to take this double-sided sticky tape and you're going to put it on there. And what I've learned with this tape that they send is you have to go very slow because it'll stretch. And then what you're going to do is you're going to peel the red sticky, the part off, and you're just going to kind of tuck it in to the seat and stick it to the back side of the seat all the way around, just leaving just the light part of it showing outside of the seat. And if I look at the instructions, I'm basically going to find the center point and kind of start at the top and work my way down from each side. But I'm also going to make sure that what they recommend is that you don't put sticky tape on the corners because it'll just it'll let loose anyway. It may detach, but it's just easier just to run it across the whole thing, and then if it detaches, it'll be inside the seat and you won't be able to see it. So that's what we're going to do right now, is we're going to do the double-sided sticky tape and then get it attached. And after I have both of them on, I will show you how I did it and how I left it. So we'll be back in just a second to show you the finished product. Okay, so the seats wasn't as hard. So you're just going to stick it in around the edge, kind of just push it in. And then I've noticed that if you push it in and then push the seat in place, it sticks to it. You're just going to kind of go all the way around the edge and do that. When you get to the bottom, you're going to cut it off. You are going to cut the light off, and then you'll cut about 1 to 2 inches so that you have enough to stick your little light thing on there, and then we will stick that in the back here. You won't even see it when we're done. All right, so now it's time for the big step of wiring. So you're going to have 2 sets of wire bundles that come off of this controller. You're going to have the footwell lights that go under the front footwells and underneath the seats. So those are there. And then you have the sets of the plugs. And you'll notice as you pull these apart that there are longer ones and shorter ones. So as I pull mine apart, I notice I have 3 shorter sets and 3 longer sets. The instructions tell me that to the left footwell, I'm going to take a rear footwell, a front footwell, a front dashboard wire, which is going to be one of the shorter ones, and a rear seat light tube. I'm sorry, the dashboard one is a longer one, and then a rear seat dashboard, a shorter one. So these 4 go to the left side of the car, the driver's side car on our part. On the right side, we'll have the 2 footwells for underneath the front and underneath the rear, a long front dashboard wire, and then a short for the rear and a short for the center console. I have an extra one here. I don't think we need it, and if we don't, I'll just unplug it and leave that source open. I don't want to leave this light there, or I could tuck it underneath the dash. But either way, we're going to start with the wiring. What they recommend that you do is that you get labels, and you label each wire, and then you put the main connector under the front seat. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to label all my wires, and then we'll get back to getting this installed in the car. Okay, so here's my bundle of wires. They're all wired, excuse me, all labeled. The extra one is for the old Gen 3 Model 3 center console, so we're going to disconnect that. I don't need that. We're going to set that aside, and then we're going to take this block here, and that's just going to kind of sit in here on this by the center console here. So it's just going to kind of sit out of the way so that it can't be seen. And I don't know if you can see it, but I tucked it right back in there. I'll probably get some double-sided sticky tape and stick it down on that piece. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so I double-sided sticky taped the controller to this little black piece right there. And now what I'm going to do is I need to go through these wires, and I need to shove through to the passenger side what are the passenger side wires, and all the driver side will stay on this side. So that's a passenger footwell. That's a passenger footwell. So those 2 footwells will go through, and you can see you can slide them right through. So I'm just going to set them down there. We'll get to them in just a bit, and we'll start running them through. This one is passenger dash side, so that'll go down through. Sorry, my camera out of whack there. But that'll go down through. Just kind of go through these passenger seat. And then the only other one that needs to go through there is the center console. And that's this one. So the center console will go down through there. The others will stay on this side and we'll work them through. So let's go pull those through. Pull these through here. So we got 1, 2 footwells. And then we should have 3 of these other wires. 1, 2, and 3. So now we have these wires sitting on the passenger side and the other wires on the driver's side. The first one we're going to do is we are going to hook up this wire to one of these. So this is the passenger dash. So what we're going to do is this will basically come, we want this to run under here. We're going to tuck it under there, and then underneath here there's a split in the carpet. So we're going to go through that split in the carpet all the way across, and then we're going to bring it out here through the split in the carpet. We're going to pop this piece. It's going to run up here and then plug into that. So I'm going to put you on a tripod, set you behind me, and we'll see how much of this you can see me do. Okay, so I'm going to do my best to show you what I'm doing. So this is my dash for the passenger side. So I'm going to take my label off now because it's just going to get in the way. And now I can unwind this plug from this side. Just going to kind of stretch it out. So the first thing I got to do is run this along this back side here. And I've got to get it underneath so that I can tuck it under the underneath the seat rail and through that carpet line right there. So, and this also is a great place to use some pry tools just to kind of push the wires into the places that you need them so that you can feed them into the spots that you need them fed. So what we're doing now, and actually what I've learned is that the easier thing to do is to take and unplug it from this wire and then work it from the inside to the outside, because we want to go under the railing. So you kind of got to shove it under the railing there and then become a contortionist to be able to get it out the other side. And this is all because I'm trying to make these cables as hidden as possible. Like I said, not always an easy thing, but in the long run, it looks so much better if you can hide everything and make it so that it's out of sight. All right, so now I have it under this seat rail. That was a bugger. Now I can push it underneath this plastic part of the dash and tuck it away so it stays out of sight. And then I can go ahead and plug it back in so that I know how much extra I have there, because I don't want a lot of extra there. I want the extra to be on the other side. All right, so now I got to get it out this side of the railing. So I need to shove it through here. On this side, you can shove the light down through. It's able to kind of slide through there. Not necessarily an easy thing, but you can get it. So now I've just got to kind of pull the excess through there, and then we're going to go through and tuck it up underneath the carpet. Take my opening covering off there, and then we're just going to kind of go underneath the carpet. Like I said, I want the cleanest install I can get, so it might take a little bit extra time, but in the long run, it just looks so much better. So then you got to pop up this piece here, and that's just kind of, we're going to pull this rubber piece up and out of the way, and then we'll just kind of pop this up there. We're going to take this down underneath the carpet. And while we have this here, we're going to pull this light through. This is the other light that I had on the car, but we don't need that anymore. So I'm going to tuck this up put it underneath this carpet and get the carpet back in place. Then there's a little crease right there. You can run this through and just kind of put it in place and run it up this side. I'm going to pull this all the way to there. Look, and if it comes out, that's okay. So get one of those little plastic screws and get this screwed into place. You can start it before you get the wire in there. You want to be really careful not to cross thread these because they're plastic. And don't drop it and lose it either, because there are not spares in there. So just kind of shove the white piece in there and then tighten this down. And now that's done. Now we can just kind of go through and put this back together. So I'm going to put that all back together so that it is a clean and it would look like what yours would look like when you get there. And then I'll show it to you. Okay, so now when you have this side done, you'll see on the side here, it comes up, it's clipped on there. And now, remember, we're going to use some black electrician's tape. We want to use some black electrician's tape so that we can kind of just make sure it doesn't come apart at the seam here. So break a piece off and then throw that one on the ground because it's probably no good. Grab another piece. And by the way, that was a joke for those that didn't understand. Just kind of wrap it around the barrel first. And then around the top here. And that is that side put together. Now, we're not going to put this triangle piece on yet because we want to be able to get to the connector in case we have to fix it when the lights come on, when we start them, to make sure they work. So now let's move on to whatever the next light is that we run. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is we're going to take the wire from here to the back of this front seat. So if we kind of clear these away, we've got two left that we need, and they're both shorter ones. This one's a center console, and then this one is to that seat. So we're going to pull our paper off, throw that aside. I'm going to unplug this again because of the way we're going to run this. We're going to run this underneath the seat here again. So while we were cleaning this all up, we are not done with that yet. So we're going to untwist it. We want to run this one along the inside, because we need to run this along the back of the seat here. So we're going to pull this back through. So now what we have to do is we have to go inside the seat back, and we'll move back there in just a second. I'll show you what we'll be working through here. Just want to get this little rubber piece fixed so that clips into place. So now what we're going to do is under here is this leather piece. We're just going to bring this plug back as much as we can. I don't really like that, but we'll find a way to get that up and out of the way. But we're going to take this up. We're going to run this under this leather piece over to the other side. So I'm going to set you down while I work through that. We got the wire from underneath there, and now we've got this screwed on there nice and tight. We're just going to kind of tuck this back in behind this seat as much as we can right there. Well, you don't want to do it that way because you want to be able to pull this wire out. So we're going to kind of tuck it in around this little opening here, and then the excess will stay up underneath here. But you want to be careful because you don't want to pull your cable out. So we're going to have to find a neat place to put this. I'm going to put you off, take you off, and I want to see if I can find a nice neat place to tuck this. Okay, so what I ended up doing was working it so it's back in behind the seat. Now I just have this extra wire here And we're going to kind of just take this and tuck it up and under the seat there. And we've got enough play in there so that'll allow the seat to move back and forth if we have to. So right now it's just kind of tucked up underneath there. And then it goes along this side and it tucks in here. Now, had I paid attention enough, I would have left more hanging off of that so that I could run it further without having to tuck it so tight underneath there. But lesson learned. So leave those a little bit longer when you're cutting them. Okay, so now we're going to do the rear seat footwell. So that's the front one. Here's the rear footwell. So we're going to slide that over. So we've only got two left on this side then, the front footwell and the center console. So we're going to do this one. So we'll go ahead and tear our paper off. Because basically what we're going to do is we're going to run it again right here underneath, and then we're going to just stick it up underneath the seat. We'll find a good place up top here. It's really hard to see a good place up top here to just set that, and we'll kind of leave the wire a little bit extra hanging out right here so that it has room to go forward and back. Okay, so I took this footwell light and I ran it from there underneath along the side, and then hopefully you can see it's stuck up underneath there. I'm not sure you can. Let me see if I can point it out. So it's right there. And then the wires are just kind of bunched up underneath here. That way it has room for the seat to go back and forth. So the only two left on this passenger side now are the front footwell, which should be pretty easy with all this stuff open, and then the center console as well. The only one left to do on this side other than the center console, or I should say the next one, is this front footwell light. And that's really easy. We're just going to run it up along the edge of this carpet here, and then we're just going to kind of come across and stick it, not on the speaker up here, but we're going to stick it right next to the speaker. Actually, now that I look at it, we might come out up here and stick it right here. But let's go ahead and get to putting that in. Okay, so now this front footwell is pretty simple. It's just a matter of tucking the wires in. So I'm actually going to go behind here and kind of leave the wires as much as I need down there. We're just going to kind of come up here. We'll peel this double-sided sticky tape off. Hopefully you're seeing this. I think you could stick me in a jail and seal it with double-sided sticky tape and I'd never get out. So I'm going to stick this one right here. So it's just on that panel. And then I'm going to unplug it because I want to run it. I should have run it behind the wires I wanted to. But I'm going to run it behind this set of wires right here. Run this wire right behind that. And what that'll do is when I put this big panel back on, it'll tuck it nice and safe and out of the way. So I'll just kind of run that over there so it stays like that. Come back down around underneath. Like that. And then plug it in. And that footwell light is done. So now we've got it all run here underneath, up, and then when we put this panel back on, this will tuck that wire back up and out of the way. Now the only one left to do over here is the center console. All right, so the center console is probably one of the easiest ones. So it's just going to really run along underneath this plastic down, and then we'll get it tucked through the back. So I'm going to run it through the back first, and then we'll clean that up in the front. In the back side, it's going to come out underneath here. I'll see if I can set my... So it's going to come out right here. As you can see, when we get that all stretched. And then we'll take it up through here, and that'll bring it out of the top. So let's bring you up top here. All right, let's bring you up top here and see if we can't get this. I think the easier way, because I have to get it through that hole there, is actually going to be just to run a quick fish light down there. Hey, like I said, I cheated. I have this little fish tape here, so you'll see it's going to go up underneath there, and hopefully this won't get caught on anything, and I can just pull this through. And of course, as I say that, it gets caught on something and it won't quite get pulled through, so I got to kind of help it out a little bit here. Try and get it through that opening. There we go. Once I got it through that opening, then I should be able to pull that up and through. So now you can see it runs from down there, and hopefully you can see that wire coming in, and then it's going to come out up top here. And so now we'll just go ahead and unhook it from our fish tape, and we will connect it to the piece we need to connect it to. So now you can see the wire comes up through here and it's connected to that, and we'll just kind of shove this down underneath here in this lower section to hide the extra cable. And then when we put the screen back on, that'll all be hidden. So that's everything on the passenger side of the car is connected. Now we just have to go through and connect these four on the driver's side. Should be pretty much the same. We're going to run it down through, do all the wiring, come up in here and connect. So I'm not going to put a lot of that on camera because it's all the same. I'll come back after I have all that run, and then I'm going to get my power source run, and then we will check out and make sure that everything lights before we button everything back up. Okay, you can see kind of that the lights are lit up. Underneath Footwells green, this one's green. You can kind of see everything. So now what I need to do is kind of just go through and put all these panels back in, and then do the what we're going to call fine tuning. And that's making sure that the light's not seen where we don't want it to be seen. So get this little panel pushed in place here. And then put this back on, and you can see we're going to have a little bit of green there, but I don't think that's going to be that big of a deal. And green's not going to be my final color, by the way. So that side is okay, because once you close the door, that covers that corner up. Little panel here, and push it down. Get it. And you just gotta kind of pull this out of the way so you can tuck it behind it. Push it down, put it in place, and then get the triangle panel. Push it back in place. Then the only thing left to do is to put the big panels in. So I'm going to go through and clean up all the wiring. Just look for little places where it's shining where it shouldn't, and then I will come back through and show you the finished product, hopefully in the dark so you can see it. So that'll do it for today's video on this install of this light kit from our friends over at Add-On Designs. Again, it's a Amazon vendor. I will have a link in the description down below so that you can order a set for yourself. Like I said, there is an advanced, harder install, and then there's the easier install. I went the more advanced one, and I'm kind of glad I did. It's a very clean install. It looks very good on the inside. But we'll try and get some night shots before I start editing this video, and we'll go from there.